Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the magnificent Monday edition of the Yard. They kind of got away from me today. It's been a busy day. I mean, not as busy as it's been for a lot of HR people around the country today, after a weekend of emails from a lot of people on social media, but we won't get into all that. I may have a few comments later in the show, but this is a Mississippi State sports show, and that's what we're going to center up most of our conversation about today. I do have some people from time to time that say, Steve, I love it when we have, some anecdotal type stuff on the show, and I do appreciate that. I got several messages about the story about Mr. Albert and that we shared on the last show. Life's lesson about forgiveness and about turning the other cheek and that sort of stuff. And had a couple people reach out and said, Steve, I'm so glad that I listened to the show and was able to hear that. It's a great reminder of what life should be about. And that's true. That's true. I just witnessed the story. I didn't write the story. I wasn't the protagonist in the story. It's just my story to share. And it's my honor to kind of share it with you guys, too. And I'm glad it was so well received, because that's how it was for me, too. And it's so interesting, too. It's the things you forget in life, right? And then all of a sudden something pops up. The wife and I are watching Love on Netflix, recommended by a dear friend down in Hattiesburg. Said, hey, you're going to love this. Your next binge should be this. We are so tired sometimes at night, we can make it through one, maybe two episodes. But, so if you've seen it, the first big date between Gus and Mickey, and they go to this, the Magic Palace or whatever, and she's kind of a reluctant attendee, shall we say. But in that scene, there is the piano, right? The ghost piano. You know what I'm talking about? And if you had a grandmother like mine, my great-grandmother, Mammal Barber, she had one of those magic pianos, right? And she loved to play. That's one of the things that she did, to kind of relax herself. She'd get out there and play out, maybe 3 or 4 days a week, just get in there and play some music. But she liked to hear the piano, when she was doing, keeping house. And so it had a program, it had this, you could go get, it was like this little, it's hard to describe because it was so young. I was so young when all this was happening. And I know I'm dating myself here as a child of the 70s. But she had these, they looked like records, but they weren't records. But she would put these record type things in the piano, and then it would play the song. And the very first time that I saw that happen, I absolutely freaked out, And my grandmother had some fun with me, kind of saying that there was a ghost playing the piano. And when you're young, you believe all that stuff. But anyway, so that was on the show, and we got thinking about that. And I said, do you remember, when I was a kid, Mama Barbara had this piano. She said, my grandmother had a piano that was similar to that. And I said, I hadn't thought about that in years. I said, I know, it's so crazy, when you begin to look at the pathology of your own life, and you begin to think about the technology and the things that have kind of come and gone, in your lifetime. And so I share that with you. Obviously, I am from the 1900s, and a lot of things have changed since then. But I'm so jacked, man. And got my new guitar, and we'll talk about that when we get ready to do our top 10 list. But music has always been a part of my life. And many of you know my story, drugs kind of took music from me. Kind of the ability and the willingness to make music. And there have been times, I've kind of stuck my toe back in the water a little bit. But, I got old in my 30s. I did. I got old in my 30s. And I shared with you guys before, I had this life coach. And he brought up one day I was leading an accidental life. I didn't have any dreams of my own. And it really made me mad because he was absolutely right. I was just a guy that was working overtime to pay for everything. Didn't have any dreams of my own. And it changed my life. It took a little time for that stuff to kind of take root. But here I am, making a commitment that I'm going to practice guitar every day that I'm home, between 30 to 40 minutes every day. Every day. Plugged it in and played this weekend, and it just feels right. It just feels right. And it's one thing, too, like I had an older, kind of less expensive Ibanez guitar, because I was like, I don't want to go out and spend a bunch of money on guitar. I just want to play around, and I did. But to have a great guitar in your embrace and to kind of play along to some songs that you love and just kind of play some things, whatever comes to mind. I mean, to me, it's very comforting and relaxing, and I don't do enough of that stuff for myself, to be honest with you. I know, and this is the day and age of, hey, you got to do this for yourself. I don't do a lot for myself, but that's one of the things that I'm going to do for myself, is to commit some time every single day. Number one, to do my meditations. And what I mean by that is it's a recovery thing, and maybe you see it differently, but I'm going to take some time with myself and my higher power, and I'm going to write some music type stuff. I'm going to play. I'm going to do that every day. And that's committing that to myself for my own well-being. And not to mention, too, I just enjoy playing. I enjoy singing. I enjoy being around music. And it reminds me, from the very beginning of my life, music has always been in my life, and I've had musicians in my life, and I've had people in my family that were musicians of one form or another, and it's kind of a family tradition. So we'll see. And everybody's like so eager to hear me play. You're not ready for that. I'm not ready for that, but I'm excited. I can promise you that. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. We love Bulldog Burger Company. We do. We love it. It's like music in our mouth, man. It is. Bulldog Burger Company is one of those places that you can always count on. That's the thing, to me, that's the mark of a great establishment, is the consistency in service, in presentation, food, atmosphere, and experience. Every time I go to Bulldog Burger Company, I consistently get a great meal at a great price and just get incredible service. That's been my experience. And there have been some times that I have been up there and it's been absolutely packed, and that crew is running around like wide open. And I've never felt neglected, right? Never. They do such a great job training the staff there. And there are a lot of times, too, the hustle and bustle of game day or whatever. I got so much going on. It's so nice to be able to go in there and kind of get taken care of. Just put your feet under their table. Let them take care of everything else. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer to make you and everybody around you better looking. Find a hamburger that you're comfortable with. And then on your next visit, maybe get something that challenges you a little bit. Maybe start with the Bulldog and then move on to the Freshman 15, perhaps the Pimentology, add bacon. That'll put some hair on your chest. The Freshman 15, the Smokehouse. There's so many great options to choose from. There's always a new special kind of coming along too. Kind of walk on the wild side a little bit. It won't hurt you. It won't hurt you. It won't. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Get that chocolate shake to go. You can ride that ride home with a smile. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay. Let's go back and let's break down this game a little bit. And, we're not going to learn much about our team playing Alcorn State. Okay. And I see the debates out there, and people are like, why do we even play these games? Well, we play them for the reasons that you saw in person on Saturday. Number one, it gets you a win, right? You get a win. You get an opportunity to play a lot of players, and they get a bit of reward because those guys that are running second and third team, they're working just as hard as everybody else. They're just not quite ready to be a starter. And so it gives our coaching staff a chance to put these players in real game situations, and I thought Jeff Levy handled it well in post-game, talking about Luke Kromenhoek and Kamario Taylor, is he goes, hey, I don't want to put them in there just to hang off. You put them in there and give them a chance to play, to actually play and run the offense and kind of see how they do. And then that, of course, then kind of sets up, some coachable moments, some things that you can correct, some film you can break down and critique. It's a great thing. Also, gives you a chance to rest some guys, get them healthy for SEC play. There's a lot of benefits in playing these games. And people are like, well, I don't know why we play. Everybody else plays an FCS game too. Everybody else plays an FCS game too. And to be quite honest with you, with us going to the 9-game schedule next year and the Power 4 mandate staying, it probably makes sense for us to play an FCS game because there are going to be some weeks that we're going to, quote, need to get right. All right, so let's jump into this ball game. It didn't take Mississippi State long, and the illustrious Hound Dog said this morning on the phone, he goes, I love how Levy started the game. Just come out like you're playing Madden, and we're just going to come out here and throw bombs and trying to get this thing over with, right? We know that we can run by you, so we're going to go out here and just attack, and we're going to get a lead, and we're going to establish a running game, and then we're going to get pretty much all the notables out of there at the break, and then we're going to put our feet up and watch the kids play the second half. It's exactly what happened. And I love the fact that we had a little urgency with this. We come out there, we take a shot down the field, basically kind of a flip of what we ran to beat Arizona State. Similar concept. And basically you just run the go route here. Maybe it's not a switch release here, but you just run the go route here because we know Brennan Thompson can run by these guys. And we just overthrow him. Take him off the field, put Jordan Mosley in, essentially run the same play, and we get it up for J-Mo, 75 yards for the touchdown. And Blake Shapen said today, too. Somebody, I think it was Colin from the Dispatch, asked, who do you see kind of emerging as that third receiver? Or maybe it was Hayden, I can't remember. Somebody asked that question. And Blake said, J-Mo. I thought it maybe Aiden Williams, but he says J-Mo. And he goes, hey, J-Mo should be more productive. He said, some of it's me. I gotta find him. But it's good to see J-Mo get on the board here. 75-0. Of course, the extra point is good. Well, I don't know that we always compliment our specialists. But Kyle Ferry, the star that he is. But the whole battery there is responsible. Ethan Myers, your long snapper, and then Marlon Hawk, your kickoff specialist, and your holder here. I think sometimes we kind of take for granted what a great job that whole group does. So let's give them a little shout out, a little love for our specialist. Of course, Kyle Ferry gets a lot of headlines, and he deserves it. But he'll tell you, without a good snap and without a good hold, his job's a little more difficult to do. But 7-0, and then your Bulldog defense comes out, and we kind of got the showing we expected from this defense. One of the things that made me happy about the defensive performance is how many times have you seen it? You get the big lead, you put the Bandits in, and you get down the depth chart, kind of play out the string, get everybody a chance to get on the playing field, and then somebody gives up like a meaningless touchdown late, and it just kind of mars the day. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like it doesn't change. You don't feel any worse about the win, but you're, man, I sure wish that wouldn't happen. Kind of like that late touchdown against Southern Miss that made the game look closer than it really was. We were able to avoid that in this one. And shout out to Southern Miss, too, for that they beat App State. That win's looking better and better. So Alcorn takes over at their 16. They decided to run that thing out. Doesn't work out well for them. SEC speed is a real thing. Sewell is their guy. And we talked about that on our preview. Sewell's the guy they believe in. They give it to him, 3 yards there. On 2nd and 7, they get it to Marion Blakes. I like that kid, and I'm glad he's at the level he can play. Just short of the sticks, makes it 3rd and 1. They got a Reggie Davis, who I thought actually played pretty well for them. 9 yards at the middle to move the sticks on 1st and 10. Back to Davis for 1. 2nd and 9. Tolbert takes a shot. It's incomplete to Jarvis Rush of Louisville High School. On 3rd and 9, incomplete to Marion Blakes. Another shot down the field. Listen, I dig it, man. If you're Alcorn State, the chances of you winning this ball game are minuscule. But come out there and try to take a shot and try to get some chunk plays and try to make some things happen. Be aggressive and at least be in the fight. So I respect it. And it ends up not being much of a drive for them. Just 6 plays, 14 yards. Runs off about 3 minutes. But at least they were willing to come out there and throw some haymakers. And I respect that. On 4th and 9, they get a false start that backs it up. And then Anthony Evans, for a while there, I thought he might break the school record for punt return yards in the ball game. And then Alcorn decided, we're not going to punt to him. 40-yard punt, returned 41 yards to the Alcorn State 29. They'd almost been better off just going for it. State goes right to work with the short field. And, feed Fluff, right? I mean, early in the ball game, we got to get Fluff going. And I think, honestly, in SEC play, as good as Booth has been, you're going to need Fluff to kind of be the hammer, for sure. Fluff up the middle for 6. We go right back to him. Get 6 more. Now it's 1st and 10 at their 17. We give it to Fluff. Why not? 3 times in a row, and it's 8. And then we go off the left side to Fluff again for 7, which makes it a 1st and goal. So it's the Fluff Bothwell show here. 4 consecutive carries for 6+ yards, 6 or more yards. We get a false start, and that's the thing that infuriates you, right? It's like you've got everything going. Guys, we're just trying to get out of here. We're just trying to give everybody a chance to get some playing time. Let's not shoot ourselves in the foot here. False start, and again, we've had some of this is on the quarterback. Some of it's on the fact that we've got some offensive line musical chairs going on. But anyway, it's 1st and goal from the 7. But we get it to Brennan Thompson for the touchdown. But wait, Sam West called for a hold. And Sam's going to be good for us, but we can't have a hold right there. 1st and 17, we get it to Fluff, who gets it back inside the 5, kind of leaps over a man. Kind of a big shot there, but he gets up. And then we go right back to him. Touchdown, Fluff. It's the Fluff show. In that drive, again, you got to get Fluff touches because he is one of your best players. Extra points good. 14-0. And then granted, this game was going to get away from them anyway, but this is when it starts, right? And again, I absolutely respect the fact that the Braves came out there and were ready to fight. I really do, and I mean that metaphorically. But 1st and 10, they give it to Sewell, and it's kind of a trap concept here, if I remember correctly. 12 yards to the 37. And then Tolbert lays one up there for Jarvis Rush, who is open on the play. He is 2 steps behind Diego Brumfield. And Diego said in postgame, it was on him. He made a mistake. He gets beat on the play, and the throw is near perfect. And it bounces off the face mask of Rush, and Brumfield is able to pick it, return for 11 yards. Rush is frustrated, grabs the face mask, makes it 1st and 10 from the 24. Yeah, and so, the return, that note's wrong. That note is incorrect. But nevertheless, State gets it 1st and 10 from the 24 after a fortuitous bounce on a play that we're beat. And, of course, yes, an SEC player are going to make those plays. Yes, save your comments. We all know. All right. And again, State just kind of doing what State wants to do. Chapin gets it out to Anthony Evans, and he is really emerging as a star for us. Like we've talked so much about Brennan Thompson, and Anthony Evans putting together a great year too, as Jeff Lebby forecasted that he would. I don't know that Evans is getting enough love, to be honest with you. But it's clear the quarterback likes him. Gets it across to Evans there, and then we take a shot, and we get it Camario Taylor's first college touchdown pass. And Chapin talked about that a little bit today, too. He's like, we brought Camario in at receiver, and I picked up on it right away, and I've told the guys in my crew, I said, hey, Camario's in at receiver. Something is afoot. Well, he kind of decoys that first play, and he stays on the field. And when you got a guy that long and athletic that is listed as a quarterback, it's going to get your attention. And then you keep him on the field, which, again, kind of puts them on edge. And you run the low end around to him. And because Camario is a plus runner, you got to expect the run. And then he makes this great pass with like 2 guys in his face. It's incredible. He just steps right into the throw. 42 yards to the dome. Thompson's in. Extra point. Makes it 21-0. And that was fun. It was fun. And I like putting that stuff on tape. Because the next time that Camario takes the field, even if we don't do anything with him, you put the defense on edge. All right, quick 3 and out here for your Bulldog defense. Sikorian off the right side for 3. Tolbert gets flushed, steps ahead, dropped at the line of scrimmage, and then incomplete to Tyrone Warren. Javen Williams, a guy that was in the beginning, even some of our fans like, I don't know, we took that guy. Guy's making plays. He is. Running second at corner, but he's making plays. Nice break up here. Makes it 4th and 7. 41-yard punt, and a 43-yard return. So again, they're better off just going for it. State sets up shop there at the 27-yard line of Alcorn State, and just like every other drive before, this one ends with a touchdown. We get it out to Max Reese for 5 yards. It's good to see him kind of moving around a little bit too. Second 5, Booth for 16, and then Chapin keeps and runs off right side for the touchdown. Extra point is good. Guys, it is a lot of people are already thinking about seeking their entertainment elsewhere after a 28-0 first quarter. But give Alcorn State, again, a little credit here. And again, I think they're going to be very competitive in their league. I think that today, because I don't know if they learned a lot about their own team other than the fact that they got some guys out there that are willing to compete. And maybe they already knew that, right? But pretty nice sustained drive here for them. And again, when you get the big lead, the edge kind of comes off a little bit. And I think this was kind of a good wake-up call for us. You can't relax. You got to play the full 60 minutes. All right, so Citizen up the middle for 1, and then we stack him up for a loss. Makes it 3rd and 10. And then it's incomplete, and they flag Javen Williams for PI. I thought it was a little ticky-tack, but after seeing the replay, I said I could see why. It's okay. 1st and 10 now from their 30. And then they give it Citizen again for 1, back to him for 4, makes it 3rd and 5. And then it's complete to Elijah Griffin for 10. It's a first down. The Braves are on the move. Sewell then up the middle for 9. And you can kind of see why they like him. I mean, I think most objective football fans can say, you know what, hey, this guy's made a pretty good name for himself. Even if it is in the SWAC, this Ja'Cory Sewell guy's got some ability. Up the middle for 9, however, State's flagged for offsides. Rather than accept the play, they take the penalty. So instead of 2nd 1, they take the penalty, makes it 1st and 5. And you know what happens here? They get a pass out to Williams for 4 yards. And that makes it what, kids? 2nd 1. And on 1st and 10, from our side of the field at the 44, they take another shot down the field. Complete to our buddy Omari and Blake's. 21 yards. First down, that runs out the quarter. So, again, this is where you start thinking, okay, here we go. We're going to win the game, but maybe it's not going to be as good as we thought. Well, defense kind of bows their back up here a little bit here, and Sewell off the right side for 3, makes it 2nd and 7. They take another shot. This time it's broken up by Isaac Smith. Then they get flagged on top of that for illegal substitution. It's complete. Basically a check down to Sewell here and for just 6 yards, and they attempt the field goal. And we talked about how Grandin Wilcox had actually been a bright spot. Prior to this game, he was 5 for 5 in extra points and 2 of 3 on field goal attempts, 36-yarder, and it's not good. And students, this is one of the reasons that I love you, and there are many. But sitting on press row, I don't know if a field goal is good until you guys tell me. Like, I know, even before the officials signal it's good or no good, you guys always take care of the rest of us, right? And it's just an emotional reaction to a play. But, I can always tell when they've missed it because you guys do a great job alerting everybody. And so you get the bird's eye view, and you're doing a service for the rest of us. So I knew, it was going to be – I thought it was going to be close. Looked like it may be a little bit wide, but you guys made sure the rest of us knew. So thank you for that. We would have found out a few seconds earlier, but you're doing the Lord's work. All right, now here's a drive, too, where I thought we looked a little silly on this one. We had a lot of good things going, and then we didn't finish. And listen, you're not going to score every drive. That's the goal. But it's one of those things you look at and say, you know what, we let Blake get hit too much, and we know we got to protect the quarterback. But again, we're trying to get the running game going. So Fluff up the middle for 6 from our 20, makes it a 2nd and 4 from the 26. Back to Fluff for 6. And guys, if I'm averaging 6 yards a carry, why would I ever throw the football? Right? 1st and 10. Chapin's incomplete to Fluff. Cedric Roberts there in Blake's face. And he hits him. He does. 2nd 10. Legal hit. Back to Fluff for 6. Again, I dare ask, If I'm getting it 6 yards a carry, why would I ever throw the football? I mean, listen, I love a great touchdown pass too. However, when I'm up big and I've struggled at times to run the football and I got a quarterback that's kind of been injury prone, again, that's just what I'm saying. 3rd and 4. He gets it out to Anthony Evans, who gets just 3. I thought he actually made it. We call timeout here. It's kind of an embarrassing moment for Alcorn, as much as I praised him today. This was kind of a brain fart. We go out there to go for it, and they send out the punt return team. You have to burn timeout. You're not going to win the game, but operationally, you got to be better. Everybody makes mistakes, but you got a whole coaching staff over there. That can't happen. So 4th and 1 after the timeout, and they get the defense back on the field. Fluff for 3 tough yards there in the middle. Makes it 1st and 10, and then back to Fluff for 13. And the thing that I am learning about Fluff is the more that he eats, the bigger he is, right? And you say, well, Steve, that's just nature's rule. It is, and that's why you got to feed him. Because he tends to get more physical the more times he gets hit, right? He's a guy that after he gets a couple of hits, gets tackled a couple times, it's like all of a sudden he becomes the hammer rather than the nail. But up the middle for 13 yards, makes it 1st and 10 across midfield at their 43. We get it out to Thompson for 11. Chapin gets flushed, runs off the left side for nothing, and former Southern Miss safety Orlandis McLaurin with a tackle. 2nd 10. We get hit here as we're throwing, and it's just a dying quail up there, and it's picked on 2nd 10. And there's an MA somewhere in there. There's a missed assignment. There's no reason the quarterback should get hit. And Blake got hit pretty hard. He did. So good on them, bad on us. Well, it's a one-play drive for Alcorn. Citizen gets off the right side for 10, and Javen Williams forces the fumble. Kid from Kennesaw State, many people thought we shouldn't take. Again, making plays. Nick Mitchell recovers. And now we're at the Alcorn State 29-yard line. And didn't take us long. We're out to Evans for 7, which makes it 2nd and 3, and then Chapin off the left side for 6. And Blake's got to run enough to keep people honest. You can't just sit back there and play 10 versus 11. 1st and 10, we get it out to Max Reese. Again, this time it's a 4-yard loss. A little pressure in our face there. 2nd and 14, we give it to Booth, who stacked up for a 2-yard loss, and we're thinking we're going the wrong way, and we were. However, 3rd and 16, crossing route to Evans, who just kind of glides into the end zone there. 22 yards on the score. Extra point is good. It is 35-0 midway through the 2nd quarter. And this is kind of the game. This is the game you wanted. This is the game you expected. It's the game you got. 3 and out here. Loss of 8 yards on this drive for them. So they give it to Sewell, and it's Tony Mitchell. Tony Mitchell finally healthy, playing some at safety. Just absolutely all over the place when he was in the ball game. Makes a 2nd and 13. Sewell again off the left side, and it's Sela and big Jamil Burrows, who's kind of rounding into shape here. Now it's 3rd and 14. And incomplete to Rush. We're all in his face. And Tolbert is eventually flagged for intentional grounding there. I think it's difficult that play with everything going on around him. And I think he actually got hit on the play. At least we were in his face. It's kind of difficult to judge intent there. But anyway, they flag him for it. Makes it 4th and 18. And it is a 40-yard punt. This time, Anthony Evans, only a 13-yard return, sets State up in good field position again. And this is one of those, once this one is there's no chance of the starters coming back after this one, right? You knew that was the case. Johnny Daniels. And I don't know that anybody runs harder than Johnny Daniels. And I mean that. I don't know that anybody runs with the same level of conviction that Johnny does. We got some guys that are fast. We got some guys that are tough. Johnny runs hard. He absolutely does. And the illustrious Hind Dog said this morning, he goes, I learned a lot of respect for Johnny Daniels last year when we went to Austin, Texas, and he was running all over them. So Daniels at the middle for 5 on 2nd 5. We go back to him for 4. And as we have done with other backs in this ball game, we're just going to feed him, right? We give it to Daniels, and this time we get back to the line of scrimmage. I thought the spot was correct. 4th and 1, we're going, baby. And Fluff comes in and gets 4. Shapin's an incomplete to Thompson. Took a shot there, just overthrew him again. It's tough to overthrow Brennan Thompson, but we did it twice on Saturday. 2nd 10, out to San Frisco McGee. Good to see Frisco getting some playing time, too. I think he has a bright future. 6 yards. And on 3rd and 4, we give it to Fluff. And what a great block by Frisco. You go back and watch that. Frisco is absolutely manhandling that guy. Fluff said he wasn't sure if he didn't turn him loose, so he just kind of powered through. But great finishing skill there by Fluff. Extra point is good. They flag us on that touchdown for spinning the football at the player's feet. Yeah, that used to be an automatic penalty. But we spun the ball a good bit this weekend. Only got flagged the one time. I saw some other players around the Southeastern Conference that also spun the football. And it's kind of like the Willie Gay doctrine, right? Because at Ole Miss, we get that fumble out of the air, and he spins the football, and it ends up being an unsportsmanlike conduct. And so then when all hell broke loose and everybody got an unsportsmanlike, he was ejected. Where's the justice, right? Nevertheless, extra point's good. And guys, it's 42-0. 42-0 with 4 minutes to go, just under 4 minutes to go in the first half. The game is over, and there were a lot of you students that you left. I don't blame you. I get it. I understand. But these are your teammates. These are your classmates. These are your friends. So this weekend, we need you to stay, okay? 1st and 10 from 21. And, again, they come out again trying to run some concept. They're not just running the dive, trying to get out of here at the half. They get it complete to Damian Jones and Cyrus Reyes with the tackle there for no gain. 2nd 10, it's complete to Jones again. For 7, Tony Mitchell on the tackle. 3rd and 3, they get it out to Sewell for 11 yards. So, again, they're on the move here. 1st and 10, it's incomplete. Again, they take a shot. I'm all about the shot. 2nd 10. Tolbert runs off the left side for 5. It came back for holding, which makes it 2nd and 20, which that just kills the drive, right? I mean, it just, even for SEC teams, that happens. It just kills the drive. When you get behind the sticks and you're already struggling offensively, you're almost just better off just, running clock in these situations. But they get it complete to Rush for 9. Call a timeout. 3rd and 11. Tolbert gets loose and runs for 10, but he's just short of the sticks, probably on the near with the tackle. Franklin Rogers punts, 17 yards. 17 yards. But it's under a minute, and so the Bulldogs give it to Daniels, who runs off the right side for 5. And that runs out the first half. Your second half recap coming up shortly. All right, your second half recap brought to you by Close with Blair. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. Blair is my friend, your friend, our friend in the mortgage industry. I'm going to give you his number just in case you don't have it. Save it in your phone as Mortgage Guy. You'll remember Blair Chandler, but you may forget that he's in the mortgage industry. 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. You never know when you may need his assistance. Life may throw you a curveball. Maybe you get a relationship change or a family change or a job change. Things happen in life. Let Blair Chandler do some of the heavy lifting in life for you by getting you into an affordable mortgage. Whether it's your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, or perhaps that game day condo, which could be more affordable than you think, Blair's the only name to know. 24 years of experience in this industry. Nobody stays 20 years plus by accident. This is a guy that gets things done. So, check in with Blair. Let him know what your plans are, what your needs are, and he can assist you. Maybe you need to refi, get some cash out, consolidate some debt. He can help you with that prospect as well. He is a guy that pays a lot of attention to interest rates, knows when it's a good time to buy, when maybe it's not a good time to buy. But sometimes you may not have that choice, right? Reality of it is we need to do business with each other as best we can. Blair Chandler is a Bulldog through and through. Again, visit closeatblair.com. Okay, second half. A lot of players got some PT. It's a great thing for us. Of course, that saves some wear and tear on the regulars. Alcorn State opens up with the opening kickoff of the second half. And again, I don't blame them at all. You come out here and do what you do, even though you're down 42-0. You're just trying to see if you can't run some offense, get on the board. Sewell off the left side for 2. They go back to Damian James on a completed pass for 5. There was a holding call in that run play, that first play of the second half. And so that made it 1st and 20. After the completion to Jones, it's 2nd and 15. They get it out to Sewell again. He just gets the 1 yard. Nice play here by Tanner Johnson, who doesn't get enough praise. 3rd and 14. They take a shot left to Jarvis Rush again, and it's Dwight Lewis that breaks it up. Dwight Lewis, of course, transferred in from the NAIA. 4th and 14, They get another false start. And then a good punt here by Franklin Rogers. They begin to kind of hold the punt to give the coverage team a little more time to get down there to negate some of the return opportunities for us. Great drive here. Xavier Gayton's in the game. Off the left side for 4. Back up the middle for 15. Croman Hawk, of course, is your quarterback at this point. And he gets it out to Aiden Williams for 13 yards. Then we feed Gayton again 6 yards, and then he gets loose 25 yards up the middle for the touchdown. It seems like every time Gayton gets in the game, good things happen. Extra point is good. It's now 49-0. Alcorn State again just trying to find something to hang their hats on to feel good about. Citizen off the left side for 4. However, State is flagged for offsides on Terrence Hibler, makes it a 1st and 5 play. They get it out to Blake's. 4 yards. Brings up a 2nd. 1. Andre Washington ahead. He is the backup quarterback. 3-yard gain there. 1st and 10. Washington again out to Amarion Blakes for 7. And then they are flagged for offensive pass interference. Makes it 1st and 25. The drive is over at this point. Or so we thought. We assisted kind of in our own demise here. Kind of a silly penalty here. Washington out the middle for 4. We're flagged for a personal foul, which negates everything else, gives them 1st and 10 now at their 41. Citizen for 2, Citizen for 1, 3rd and 7, out to Elijah Griffin, and it's incomplete. Again, taking a shot there. Makes it 4th and 7. Franklin Rogers holds again, 40-yard punt. Colin Wilson, the game, seeing his first action as a Bulldog, gets a return for 1 yard. One of the only drives that we didn't do a lot of good stuff here. Camario Taylor in the game. And it's complete to Grayson Harris, who gets 4. 2nd and 6. Camario off the left side for 13 yards. Makes it 1st and 10. Incomplete to Grayson Harris here. Stamarian Edwards on the quarterback hurry there. 2nd and 10. Daniels off the left for 2. Makes it 3rd and 8. Some good things are happening here. We get the pass complete to Bull Mitchell out there for 17. That's going to move the sticks. However, ineligible downfield and illegal touching. 2 different penalties, both against the offense. That negates the play. Makes it 4th and 8. Ethan Pulliam with a 41-yard punt as State punts for the first time. Final possession of the third quarter. We got an offsides on us. That doesn't make any sense. I think the note here is wrong. So they run for 4 yards here. And then Andre Washington is complete to Damian Jones, and then he fumbles. And Tanner Johnson recovers a fumble. Good things happening. And again, I think Tanner Johnson is kind of an unheralded player. And, you know, not a guy that gets a lot of press, but here he is making plays. Again, involved in some good things. All right, Luke Kromanock back in at quarterback as the Bulldogs open the fourth quarter. And again, quick drive here, right? Quick drive as Kromanock off the right side for 3 gives State the touchdown. Makes it 56-0 with the extra point. Hawk with the extra point there. And again, Bulldog defense just kind of hanging in here, making plays. I mean, you got the Bandits in the game, and give Jackson State a little credit too. But I mean, Jackson State, that's such an insult. Alcorn State get a lot of guys in the game too. Carl McDonald rushes for 3, back to him for 5, and then there is a fumble on the play, forced by Ray Thomas. Andre Washington jumps on it, makes it a 3rd and 12. They give back to him for 2. and then or to Sewell for 2, and then it's a 29-yard punt down at the 46-yard line. State doing some good things, for sure. Kamario Taylor back in at quarterback, alternating possessions between the two backups. So Colin Wilson, first carry is a Bulldog, 4 yards. Go back to him for 2 more. Makes it 3rd and 4. And then Kamario gets loose for 8. And, man, doesn't he run pretty? I mean, he really does. He's such a long strider. They end up burning time out here. Wilson off the left side for no gain. And then Seth Davis gets in the ball game. And Seth Davis, a great story. And a young man, obviously, that has had to overcome a lot. Jeff Levy said again today he's not quite 100%. I know some people have suggested otherwise, but it was a very serious knee injury. And there's nothing malicious about it. It's just one of those bad things that happens in football. At the end of a 23 egg ball, this kind of got his leg taken out. And very, very, very involved in extensive surgery. It's required a lot of rehab. He's just not quite there yet. But it's good to see him get out there, and he still shows that he's got some explosiveness. I know some people are thinking he's going to take over the offense. That's not fair. That's not fair to him to suggest that, because he is just simply not there. Not to mention, I think even if he was 100%, I think he's still behind Booth and Fluff. But the fact that we have Seth rounding back into form is a great thing for this football program, and he is a great young man, and we wish him the best. Kamario Taylor then off the right side for 19 yards, makes it 1st and 10. Colin Wilson for 10. Comes back for holding, though. Jaquan Bolden getting his first real action as a Bulldog. Flag for holding, makes it 1st and 20. However, we get it to Davis, and once Davis breaks contain, it's difficult to catch him in the open field. He gets into the end zone. Great reception by his teammates, and I think that says a lot about him as a person, not just as a player, that everybody was so fired up for him. And, it's great. It really is a great thing. But extra point's good. And it's like, hey, 63-0 now. Time for us to kind of ride this thing out. And it's true. Bulldog defense, the Bandits still holding strong here. Cameron Stewart up the middle for 5. LaKendrick James, Corey Clark making a tackle, 2nd and 5. Ernest Lyons, the 3rd, ahead for 1 yard. Corey Clark again and Montrell Chapman on the tackle, 3rd and 4. Trillin Minor runs for 2. And on 4th and 2, they get another false start. They had a real problem with special teams. Franklin Rogers then punts out of bounds, 32-yard punt. And then State gives it to Colin Wilson. That's one thing I like about Levy, too. We don't just take a knee. It's like we get 17 yards here. At the end of the first half and the second half, we just run the football, not willing to kind of give away that yardage. But let's take a quick look inside the numbers here. As you guys know, the participation chart will be absolutely ridiculous considering how many players played in this ballgame, really for both teams. Looking at the team numbers first, Alcorn State just 9 first downs in the ballgame, 2 of them by way of penalty. Bulldogs with 23 first downs, 16 of those came on the ground. Net rushing, Alcorn State rushed for just 68 yards, and a lot of that on that one drive there in the second quarter. Bulldogs run for 282 yards in the game on 36 attempts, averaging right at 8 yards a carry, 6 rushing touchdowns on the day. I think we only had like the 1 negative play. I think that's right. Efficient day for the Bulldog quarterbacks, 13 of 18 and the 1 pick that was really more on the offensive line. Alcorn State, 13 of 21, the 1 pick for them. Their average depth of target was 4.4. A lot of that's because they're just trying to check down. Bulldogs' average depth of target was 12.9. Also 3 touchdowns. So Bulldogs 514 yards of offense, Alcorn State just 161. State did have 10 penalties in the ball game. That's something you got to clean up. Alcorn State 9 for 70. They punted 8 times, averaged 35.8 yards. State just the 1 punt, Pulliam with a 41-yarder. Alcorn State just the 1 kickoff. You don't ever get a kickoff, you don't score. State kicked off 10 times with 6 touchbacks. And a couple of those would have been touchbacks. They elected to bring them out, just trying to make a play. Punt returns, good for State, 4 for 98, averaging right at 24 yards a punt. That's always good stuff. and we did not have a kickoff return. Time of possession in this ball game for State, just 16 minutes and 53 seconds. Think about that for a second. In old school terminology, you got dominated in TOP as Alcorn State had the ball 43.7 seconds, 43 minutes and 7 seconds, and State scored 63 points. It's just a weird statistic. The Braves 3 of 12 on third down, Bulldogs 4 of 7. State went for it on fourth down twice, made it both times. 5 for 5 in the red zone. State just the one sack, though. One thing we got to get better at. State perfect on PATs in the ball game. And, of course, they missed the one field goal. Look at some individual numbers here. Shapen 10 of 14, 2 touchdowns, 173 yards. And he hadn't had a real big game statistically yet. Had some big plays, but we haven't had like that big, 275, 300-yard game. Camario 2 of 3 for 46 and a touchdown. Cromanhawk 1 for 1 for 13. It's good to get both of those guys in the game to get some meaningful snaps. The Bulldogs see Fluff Bothwell, 12 carries for 93 yards and a couple touchdowns. Xavier Gayton 4 for 50. That's a pretty good average, right? 12.5 yards a carry. Camario 3 for 40. Seth Davis 2 for 31. Colin Wilson 4 for 23. Davin Booth just 2 for 14. And Jeff Levy addressed that today. Nothing's wrong with Davin. He just happened to be on the field when we had some short yardages. They were rotating backs a lot, trying to keep people fresh. He'll be a big part of things this weekend. Johnny Daniels 5 for 16, Blake Shapen 3 for 12, and Luke Cromanhawk 1 for 3, and that included a touchdown. Jordan Mosley, the one catch for 75 yards. Anthony Evans 4 for 66. Brennan Thompson 2 for 53. Fluff 1 for 14. Aiden Williams 1 for 13, and then from there, a handful of other guys were able to get their hands on the football. But, again, you're not going to have a lot stacking up the box score, right? Darian Gillette actually led Mississippi State in tackles with 5. Ray Thomas with 4, including a TFL. Jabri Stewart had 4 tackles, one of those on special teams where he absolutely destroyed the Alcorn State return man. Nick Mitchell with 4, DJ Reed with 4, another guy that's maybe not getting the press that he deserves. Isaac Smith with just 3. But this was a game that we were able to kind of manage and get, again, a ton of people in the ball game. So happy to do that, happy to make some things happen, happy to get a big dub. And now we turn our full focus to Northern Illinois. We'll do a full preview on them when it comes Wednesday. But a couple things that I will tell you is, number one, they're coming off an open date. They trailed in the fourth quarter to Holy Cross. They were down 10-6 in that ball game, and after Holy Cross had taken the lead, it was 6-3 opening the fourth. I watched both of their games yesterday. They get a kickoff return that gives them the lead to stay, and they ended up winning that game 19-17 to Holy Cross. The next week they played Maryland, and they didn't play much better. And the reason I say that is because they've lost a ton of production. I think they're replacing 18 starters. It's 4 or 5, depending on what you look at. But 4 expected starters, and I think there was a spot starter from a year ago that some people are counting. But the Maryland game, you look at it and say, hey, they were in the game late, and they were, but some of that's the ineptitude of Maryland. Maryland goes for it on fourth down. They have 2 receivers in the same spot. He's trying to get the back receiver. The underneath receiver basically tips the ball away and can't come down with a catch. There was another time they got a little play action rollout. The quarterback basically just puts the ball on the ground. It's like he loses his balance and like uses the football to balance himself and leaves it, and then they recover it. It's basically 2 touchdowns that come off the board that should have been scored. Because, the play call was good, the execution was not. So you look at that score, and it's maybe not indicative of really the fact that Maryland had game control really throughout the game. They really did. This is an offense that doesn't compete very hard. They do want to run the football. They run some wildcat stuff. They got some gadget stuff they have to use. Quarterback is not nearly as athletic as what we've seen. He's smart with the football. I give him credit that. But when you think about the running quarterbacks, the dual threat guys that we have seen, not so much last week, Tolbert, as I shared on the preview last Wednesday, not really a runner. This is kind of how it is with Holst. He runs just enough in his own read concepts to kind of keep you honest. But this is a team that has not done much. They've scored 3 touchdowns on the year, and one of those coming on that kick return. They have been very good against the run. But you wonder, is that a byproduct of their run defense, or is it a byproduct of the fact that they play 2 teams that just don't run the football well? I think Maryland averages about 110, 115 yards a game rushing the football. And Holy Cross, of course, from the Patriot League, just, I assume they're from the Patriot League. I hadn't double-checked in a while. But you get my point. They're not going to line up and go at a D1 team. But they were still in the game. And Holy Cross probably feels like they should have won the game. You make a tackle on special teams, you probably do. So I know the line comes out, State's favored by like 22.5, and people are like, I don't know if we cover. Guys, if we don't cover, it's because of us. This is a Northern Illinois team that's going to be well coached. They're not especially athletic, and that secondary has got some real challenges. And I think we're a team that's going to be able to spread them out a little bit. And again, they may be able to do some things up front defensively to kind of slow our running game down. They cannot run with us in the secondary. I suspect that this will be more comparable to what we did against Southern Miss, but I think Southern Miss would beat them. And it's so interesting, too. Like, you look at the wins we've got already, and sometimes we forget. We write that article once a week, how the Bulldog opponents fared. I don't know if you guys have kept up with that, but Jacob Bain writes that once a week. We just kind of let you know, because what happens is sometimes teams, they get behind us, right? And we just, out of sight, out of mind, right? We just don't think about, what's happened there. We got a few people to do, but the rank and file fan is always focused on what Mississippi State is doing. And I understand that. And it's one of the reasons we write that piece, just to kind of keep you apprised of how things are going. But Arizona State, again, you look at this, we knew we weren't going to learn anything from them with that Northern Arizona game. But guys, they beat Texas State 34-15, and Texas State beat them last year. So they're now 2-1, and they'll take on Baylor this weekend. They'll be at Baylor this weekend. So, interesting. Again, once we beat people, we want them to do well. It's kind of like the whole RPI thing. You want them to do well. And I got no beef against these teams, these non-conference teams. And we got to start thinking that way too. We got to start thinking about long-term what's best for us. But Southern Miss beats App State 38-22 over the weekend. So the 2 FBS teams that we have played, the only teams they've lost to through 3 weeks are us. All right, time for today's Top 10 list. As always, brought to you by Kalito Guitars. And yes, it's true. You saw the social media postings. I have my new rig, and I'm so excited. I have been. That's going to kind of factor into our Top 10 list today, too. Yeah, so Kalito Guitars, man, what a great operation. And let me just tell you this, because I can now speak from personal experience. I've got a guitar stand. I've got a gig bag. I've got a guitar from them. I am so incredibly pleased with all of it. But I think the thing that makes me the happiest is the service. Just so happened they had an employee, one of the grandsons, was headed to Alabama for some other stuff. They bring the guitar to me. It's completely set up, perfectly tuned. And he kind of takes me through, the tuning process with this one. It's a little bit different. The tremolo bar and everything, all that is it's a little different than what I'm used to. But he's like, hey, here's my number, and if anything comes up, you call me. We're happy to do it. Incredible service, man. Incredible service. And the more of these people that I meet, the better I feel about partnering with them. You should feel comfortable partnering with them. Number one, they're a Mississippi State owned and operated company. Showroom based out of Lake Jackson, Texas. A lot of Bulldogs in that family. And the grandsons are all part of the business. And I love that part of it, man. I love the fact this is a family-owned and operated business, and it's a Bulldog family-owned and operated business. Unless you don't have to be a Mississippi State guy to do business with them, or lady. It's incredible, though, man. I could not be more pleased with Kalido Guitars. Check them out today, CALIDO guitars.com. You owe it to yourself. Again, give yourself something to get excited about. If you're sitting around waiting for somebody else to do it for you, you're kidding yourself, okay? Nobody's going to make this major purchase, and it is a major purchase, just because they love you, right? You just got to take this by the horn, so do it yourself. So anyway, visit KalidoGuitars.com. You can call, you can stop by, you can shop online, but let me give you the promo code. It's BSR. What that unlocks for you is a 10% discount. That's a Ken Folks discount, right? 10% off. No shipping. And then no sales tax, unless you live in the great state of Texas. And they're going to make a 5% donation to the Bulldog Excellence Fund based on your purchase price. So the more you buy, the more Mississippi State's going to get. What a great incentive, right? They're giving you all the reason you need to do your stringed instrument business with them. Whether you need the gig bag, cables, anything you need, and of course these incredible guitars. And I absolutely love. The first time I sat down and I played, I was like, oh my gosh, this is everything that I hoped it would be. I've wanted a Steve Vai original guitar since I was 16 years old, and now I have one. And it's not one of the top-of-line ones, but man, it feels so good in the hands. It sounds so clean. You need to upgrade. You do it. And I just think it's one of those things, too. Life is short and death is certain, right? Buy the guitar. Buy the guitar. Do it. Buy the guitar. So whether you're looking for an acoustic, electric, or classical guitar, you can find it all there. And for all levels of skill, beginning guitars, professional grade guitars. I mean, there's guitars in there that go into the thousands. And I think that's one of the things that impresses me so much about this is just the selection. There's a lot of people that sell guitars, right? And it's basically one step up from a pawn shop, right? Not with these guys. This is a professional grade guitar shop. No matter your level of skill, Kalido Guitars is the way to go, without any question. Okay. Now, I am a guy that does things sometimes for just myself, okay? And I don't mean that selfishly, but there's some motivations that maybe only matter to me. And so I thought long and hard about this. Like, what song do I want to christen this guitar with? Now, that may seem like a small thing to you. It's not a small thing to me. Now, you get out there and you play some things you're familiar with. But I said, you know what? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to pick out a song that is meaningful to me for the right reasons. And I'm going to learn this song and I'm going to play it through and through. And I'm not going to move on from that until I'm done. I'm going to christen the guitar playing a song. And I thought long and hard about it. And I thought about I wanted to do something to honor somebody that is either in recovery or should have been in recovery. And that encompasses a lot of musicians. And I settled on Mark Bolan from T-Rex. And I'm not ready for the Power Station version of this song, the cover version, because Andy is a freak. Andy Taylor from Duran Duran, one of my favorite guitarists that people don't ever talk about. People never mention Andy in the great guitar discussions because everybody just kind of lumps him in with Duran Duran. His solo work and the work he did with the Power Station, absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how in the world he gets that tone. It's crazy. But I'm going to go back and play the original Bang a Gong, Get It On from T-Rex. That's what we're going to christen the guitar with. That's going to be the first song that we learn start to finish on this new rig. Shouldn't take long. It's not a very complicated song, but I want to get all the nuance, it all figured out. But Mark is a guy that we lost, and he had this crippling fear of driving. He said he'd kind of always known that he would die in a car accident, so he never drove because he was scared to drive. And now he made a bunch of money, bought a bunch of cars, but he didn't drive. And one day, his girlfriend was driving them both home, and they'd both been drinking. She had an accident, hit a fence post and eventually a tree, and he died in a drunk driving accident. And so that's one of those things that, you know, you look at in life and say, well, you know what? It's a risky behavior, and it ended with a tragic consequence. But Mark Bolan is one of the people, too, that was incredibly influential in rock music worldwide, not just in England, not just in the United States. And I still go back and I listen to some of the stuff, and it's amazing to me like how rudimentary the recording equipment was back then. Like, we didn't have a lot of great pedals in the 70s. You think about what you have now, like Brad Delp and those guys didn't build those amazing cabinets for Boston until much later. But there are just some guitars in the hands of the right people just sound differently. It's like I saw recently Nuno Bencourt, who was an Eddie Van Halen freak like all of us, and he said he got to go play with Eddie, and he's like, hey, I'm playing Eddie's guitar on Eddie's gig. I'm going to sound like Eddie. And he goes, you know what? I didn't. I sounded like me. And that's kind of how this thing works. There is a symphony between artist and instrument. And when Mark Bolan played the guitar, he just made it sound differently than other people. And he wasn't a real technical player, but man, what a riff master, man. Absolutely. The tone that he got based on the equipment available just kind of shows you he just had some natural ability. So we're going to celebrate the music of Mark Bolan. There'll be some T-Rex stuff in here, but also some solo stuff. We're going to start with number 10, kind of how it all started. It's a single called The Wizard. Now, one of the things that you may not know about Mark Bolan, he shows up like on this record producer's doorstep unannounced. And he's like, hey, I'm going to be a rock star, and I need somebody to kind of get this thing going. He had an incredible amount of confidence. He already had some demos done. The guy lets him in, listens to it. Next thing you know, signs him to a recording contract. And so he puts together a couple little solo joints. His first single was The Wizard that featured Jimmy Page. And if you listen to it, you can absolutely pick out Jimmy. I think you'll dig that. Now, Jimmy Page, like Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck, was all part of Yardbirds. Now, the management group at one time was going to just kind of slide Bolan into the Yardbirds. But there was another band they were managing that was having trouble writing songs. And because Mark was such a great songwriter, they put him in this band called John's Children. And they had a hit, kind of a minor hit. It actually got banned by the BBC. It was a hit around Europe, but it didn't chart in England because it was banned. And it's Desdemona. And there's a lyric in there. It says, lift up your skirt and fly. And that was too risque for the BBC. So they banned it. But it also made Mark somewhat notorious. Next track, 1 Inch Rock. I think you'll have a little fun with that one. That's not double entendre. It's a fun one. And number 7, a song that was a bit of a kind of an underground cult type hit, Hippie Gumbo. Again, we're going back. But for a long time, Mark couldn't get anything going. It's a very interesting story. Like, he goes up and he's so confident, I'm going to be a rock star. And things just didn't work out. And a lot of these songs kind of became hits after his death, like as people began to kind of recognize his genius after he was gone. But again, he had great management, but for some reason it didn't work out. And then he was kind of a psychedelic artist, kind of a, just a couple guitars and a mic. And they said he lost his confidence, completely lost his confidence. Because just before that, like, he had put this ad out in the paper. He booked a gig. He was going to go play some solo stuff. And he didn't have a band. So he put an ad in a magazine, a little tabloid, and the tabloid came out the day of the gig. And so all these guys show up, don't know the songs, he gets booed off stage, loses his confidence. Before that, John's Children, the band he was with, they were having so much trouble booking gigs and making money that the record label actually repoed their PA. And so again, this is a guy that just knew in his heart he was going to be a star. Gets great management, works with the great Jimmy Page, and then his band fails, loses their gear, and then he goes and tries it again and gets booed off stage and just basically becomes a lounge act for a while. And they decide to give it a go again, and that's when T-Rex was founded. Originally called Tyrannosaurus Rex, shortened to T-Rex, and he had his first big hit on that first album with T-Rex called Ride a White Swan. And again, it's kind of psychedelic, but you kind of begin to see that he's maturing as an artist. He had an earlier hit, a number 5 song, that actually got a little play as a solo artist. It was running some commercials, and it's a song called You Scare Me to Death. And it's actually a pretty clever track. I think you'll enjoy that one too. And number 4, Metal Guru is another one that I think is probably underappreciated. Most of you guys know the top 2 songs, but you don't know the expanses of this catalog. Metal Guru, again, the guitar work on this is really good. Number 3, a song that basically led to Bowen leaving his management group and his record label. They released the track Jeepster. I'm a Jeepster for your love. It's kind of, a little slang. And some of the Jeep community has kind of jumped aboard with this thing. It's kind of had a new life in recent years. But they released this as a single without consulting Mark, and he got furious and basically left the organization and ended up with EMI. So that's your number 3 track, Jeepster. Number 2, though, you probably know the riff more than you know the song because it's been in about 100 commercials over the years. It's 20th Century Boy. And as soon as, the thing that I love about it is, as soon as the song comes on, I could just sit there and listen to that intro and that opening riff, all day. I mean, there's just so much soul because at his heart, Mark Bolan was a blues player. And a lot of the things, even with, some of the more popular stuff that happened later, it's all rooted in blues in every aspect. But number 1, it's T-Rex's Bang a Gong. Same situation here. When you go back and listen to the Power Station version, Andy, of course, adds so much more flair to it. It's true to the original, but he kind of makes it his own. But man, when you go back to listen to that original, it's so crazy to just think about the little strikes and stuff that Mark does that adds some real character to the song. A lot of people, of course, are just playing chords and kind of riffing out. But he had so much character in his play. And again, it's just incredible to me to think about T-Rex having this big, raw Les Paul sound. I think in many respects, it really changed the direction of music, and people began to kind of mimic what Mark was doing. They were on Top of the Pops, which was kind of like the American Bandstand. And so Mark goes on stage, and they had Hot Love was one, and then some people say that their first appearance on Top of the Pops, they had a couple number 1s that year, was like the beginning of glam. Because Mark goes out there, and he's got on these fabulous pink bell-bottom jeans and his gray leather jacket and his fabulous shirt and that curly hair that just, really made him kind of stand out. But on top of that, he put these glitter tears on his face. And on the performance you can find on YouTube, Elton John is playing the piano on this song. Well, there is no piano part, right? They were friends, as was David Bowie. And so Mark was basically in the friend group with some of the most legendary performers that England had ever produced since the Beatles and the Stones. So he was contemporaries with them, but unfortunately his life was cut short. And I kind of shudder to think what music and beauty he would have brought into our lives had he lived. But at the end of the day, Mark Bolan was a guy that believed in himself and had enough courage in the beginning to go to a record producer's house and knock on the door uninvited and say, I'm going to be a rock star. I need you to kind of go ahead and make some arrangements for me. And then pulled it off after having 2 incredible meltdowns, losing all the equipment, getting booed off stage, but he wouldn't quit. And I think there's a lesson in that for all of us. If you truly believe in yourself and your ability, you just can't give up. You got to keep working. No matter how it ends, at least it happens because you kind of manifest it and you continue to work hard. And again, it's nice to recognize the genius of Mark Bolan. And again, even if you don't listen to the full top 10, you owe it to yourself to go listen to some of those T-Rex essentials. And many of you from my age, when the Power Station came out with Bang a Gong, you thought it was an original. It was not an original. And I think there is kind of some swing in the T-Rex version. Again, they're very similar, but when you listen to how Andy plays it, it's a little more aggressive as it was because the 80s are more aggressive. But there's just like a vibe in that T-Rex 70s version. I think as similar as they are, I think you can love them both in a different way. And so I encourage you to do that. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. Best way to do that is to hit up Roy Samanti on X at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC 67. Give him a follow. Yeah, he's not going to post pictures of his food or anything like that. He's not posting cat videos. He doesn't have a man bun. He's not a guy that rides his bike and pretends it's a Harley. That's not who he is. Okay, he's just a good dude, and will be retiring to Starkville sometime soon. Missy, you hear this? Retiring to Starkville sometime in the next couple of years, and Roy plays guitar too. So don't be surprised if in our advanced age, Roy and I are not playing at Rick's one night and just kind of laying down some Judas Priest or something for you. You just never know. You never know. You never know where life's going to take you. And be sure to follow me on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus BookMart, a Starkvillian institution. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is the best place to go when you are seeking Mississippi State merchandise. As well you should, right? Next time you're in town, stop by and see their smiling faces just out past the Trooper Station. Take that left off 182 or right, depending on which way you're coming. And mosey on around towards campus, and then there it is, just before you get to, where all things Bulldog happen. Conveniently located for you right there. Go by and see their smiling faces. You'll be glad you did. If you can't make it to town, or perhaps game day is a tough shopping day for you, check them out online at campusbookmart.net. Promo code BSR gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. Campus Bookmart, your one-stop shop for Mississippi State merch. All right, wild weekend in the SEC. We knew that it would be because there were so many crazy spreads, and we had a lot of teams not cover. They won, but not covered. We picked LSU to win and cover. They did. As you guys know, it was an interesting game. LSU offensively just not really doing what they need to do. And Brian Kelly was asked about that in postgame, and he kind of went off on Michael Cobble, who worked for WBRZ down there. I've known Michael a long time. And he is a Tiger through and through, as a lot of media people are. They cover the teams that they love. But Florida throws 5 picks in the game. DJ Lagway, tough game for him. 33 of 49, 287 yards, and just the 1 touchdown. But 5 picks, and they were all terrible. And they just continued to get worse as he tried to do too much. But the Tigers win 20-10, but you would think, considering they were given the short field over and over again, they would have the opportunity, of course, to put this game away. They didn't rush for much at all. Running the football has been a real chore. And the Tigers are ranked 3rd in the country and 3-0 and now 1-0 in the SEC, but they look to be a little more vulnerable than maybe I expected. But, hey, 3-0 is 3-0. Georgia and Tennessee, what a wild one. Georgia wins but doesn't cover. They win in overtime. I thought once they tied it that they may have the opportunity to cover, but they win by a field goal because of the fact you don't have to kick the extra point. But Tennessee comes out, jumps all over them, 21-7, and then Georgia just kind of just hangs around and hangs around. Pretty crazy touchdown pass and then eventually went for 2 to tie to force overtime. They do win, and maybe Georgia is not quite as good as we thought. Tennessee may be better than we thought. And again, we knew going in there, road games are hard in the SEC. Tennessee did a good job trying to defend the home turf, just couldn't quite fill it off. Aguilar with a good game, 24 of 36, 371 yards and 4 touchdowns. They really victimized that Georgia secondary a little bit, for sure. Texas, again, what is going on with Texas? They win again. Of course, we picked UTEP to cover. They do. 27-10 is the final. Guys, it's 7-0 after 1 and 14-3 after 2. Texas tacks on a couple field goals there in the third to give themselves a little breathing room, and they trade touchdowns there in the final quarter. But UTEP, a nice cover there. Texas wins by just 17. And again, Texas looks pretty vulnerable too. Offensively, things are just not clicking for them. They have not done well against the spread this year. A bit of an upset. Texas A&M. 41-40 winners over Notre Dame in a wild, wild affair. It's 14-7 Irish after 1, and then a 21-point second quarter for the Aggies gives them the halftime lead, 28-24. Notre Dame outscores them in the third, and then ultimately Texas A&M pulls away and wins 10-9. Marcel Reed with a great game from a total offensive standpoint, not a great passing game. 17 of 37, 360, couple touchdowns. One of those to Mario Craver, who had 7 catches for 207 yards. And you can say what you want to. Craver is tearing it up at A&M. I thought it was an interesting pick for him to go to A&M. They obviously know how to utilize him. We know what he can do. Hopefully he's got his life together. We wish him the best. Vanderbilt marches into Williams-Brice Stadium and absolutely does whatever they want to do. It was a tight game after 7-7, and then from there, it's all Vanderbilt. They score in the second and the third and add 10 points in the fourth to win 31-7. Pavia, 18 of 25 for 177 yards and a couple touchdowns. They kind of get it done on the ground. But again, I thought South Carolina was a bit overrated at 11. They kind of proved that to be the case. We thought Temple would have an opportunity to keep this thing a little bit closer than they did. They were 2-0. They played pretty well defensively. Oklahoma, 42-3 winners in that ball game. Sets up a really big matchup with Auburn, who we'll talk about here shortly. Going to be interesting. All right, we picked Arkansas to cover against Ole Miss. They do. And the Rebels still win, though, 41-35. Pretty of a crazy game. Chambliss, the backup quarterback, a transfer in from Ferris State, if memory serves me correct, 21 of 29, 353 yards and 1 touchdown. And they did play Simmons a little bit in the game when Chambliss got a little bit banged up. And as you saw, he could barely walk, much less run the offense. And so you begin to wonder, does that linger? And I've seen some people kind of question the wisdom of him playing in that game. But, it is what it is. No matter how you slice it, Ole Miss is 3-0 and now 2-0 in the SEC. And how many times have we said it? It seems like Ole Miss always got all these non-conference games to open the season, and it kind of inflated their opinion of them. Well, they've had 2 SEC games, and they've won them both. Alabama and Wisconsin. Wisconsin does cover. We picked them to cover, but Alabama wins 38-14. I believe the spread was 24.5. I think that's right. So Wisconsin, a touchdown in the fourth quarter to kind of bail us out there a little bit. We'll take the dub. Ty Simpson was electric, 24 of 29, 382 yards and 4 touchdowns. South Alabama gave Auburn more of a fight than I think people anticipated. 7-3 after 1. Then Auburn kind of gets rolling. It's 28-9 at the break, and then South Alabama outscores them in the second half 6-3. They win 31-15. And I think some of this, too, with Jackson Arnold is you're just going to have to kind of live with that. He's not going to be an elite passer. He is a guy that's capable of running the football. And so that's kind of how things sit there. Again, Auburn, Oklahoma could be a good game this week. Both teams now 3-0. The Raging Cajuns of Louisiana 1-2 now as they drop the game to Missouri 52-10. Pribula, again, proving to be very efficient. Give Drinkwitz a lot of credit. They lose Brady Cook, but they haven't really slowed down at all. 15 of 22 for 174 yards, a couple touchdowns. Kevin Coleman, 8 receptions for 84 yards. Maybe, doing well, but maybe not as well as people anticipated. Of course, State wins 63-0. And then Kentucky, we picked Eastern Michigan to cover. Kentucky wins 48-23 in this game. Eastern Michigan now 0-3. And you wonder a little bit about that Kentucky offense. They answered some questions. They put the number 2 quarterback in, and then things kind of begin to change a little bit for them. So we'll see how things progress with them. Let's take a quick first look at Week 4 action. I know you guys are always excited about this. Arkansas and Memphis. They'll play at the Liberty Bowl. Memphis is 3-0. So this is a big game for them. They're going to be excited for that. Razorbacks are favored by 7.5. I just don't think Memphis is going to have the athletes to compete, but we'll see how things go. UAB at Tennessee. The Vols favored by 40.5. That's a lot of points. And then you begin to think kind of about what's next for Tennessee. You've already dropped, that crazy game against Georgia, so you're 0-1 in the league. And you begin to think about what's coming up. You got UAB, then Mississippi State, at State, Arkansas at home, a team that beat you the year before. Then you got to go to Alabama and then Kentucky. And so 3 of the next 4 games for Tennessee are road games. So we're going to find out what they're made of. Auburn at Oklahoma. Oklahoma favored by 6.5 here. And again, this may be the best game of the weekend. Thus, it's in the 2:30 time slot. So be playing around the time we're playing too. Tulane is at Ole Miss. Austin Simmons, of course, as you guys know, probably not going to play in this game. We'll see, The Green Wave, this may be an interesting game when it's all said and done. Rebels favored by 11.5 as it stands today. But Tulane has a win over Northwestern, a win at South Alabama, and then they beat Duke 34-27. So offensively doing some pretty good things there. Do they have the dudes to match up with Ole Miss? That's going to be the real question. And then that quarterback situation at Ole Miss is very much unsettled. They'll probably have to depend on Lacey, transferred in. 61 carries for 290 yards already and 5 touchdowns. Of course, Northern Illinois at Mississippi State. Bulldogs favored currently by 21.5. I believe it opened at 22.5. I like State to cover in this ball game. I just don't think Northern Illinois is going to be able to do enough offensively to keep up, and I think the Bulldogs are going to be able to torch that secondary. South Carolina is at Missouri. How will the Gamecocks respond after getting punched in the mouth last week? Going to Como is not a good way to get healthy. The Tigers favored by 13.5 as we stand here today. Kind of like Missouri there. Florida is going to be at Miami. When you begin to think about everything that's happened, like Virginia Tech and UCLA both fired their coaches over the weekend. And because of the fact that it's less than 4 games, a lot of guys can opt out. And so Scott Strickland's got an interesting decision to make here. When do you make the move on Billy? And you say, but Steve, it's too early. Let me tell you what Florida is facing. This weekend, they go to Miami, who is ranked 4th. The next week, they host Texas. Then they travel to A&M. And then again, I shared with you guys in the summertime, I like where we sit on the schedule. We're after the road trip to A&M and before the game against Georgia. So again, interesting times in Gainesville, Florida. But you start running this thing down, you're 1-2, and you're about to face kind of a murderer's row ball games. I mean, honestly, there's not a game on this schedule you look at and say they will absolutely win. Probably the game you look at right now and say that's most favorable for them is us. But what condition is this team going to be in mentally? Let's say they win one of the next 3. All of a sudden, you're 2-4 at the midway point with Mississippi State coming in. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're going to win that game, but I think we've got a chance to be a little more competitive than people thought in the preseason. Georgia State is at Vanderbilt. The Commodores favored by 26.5. Clark Lee and those guys got it going. They have a 3-0 record now and a win in the SEC. Man, it's too bad they don't play Ole Miss this year. I'd love to see the Bowtie Bowl. Southeastern Louisiana is at LSU. There'll be no line on that game. That'll be a game that LSU should win and kind of get the running game going. Sam Houston, 0-3 Sam Houston at Texas. Texas favored by 41.5, but you start thinking, as bad as Texas has been against the spread, and Arch Manning's not really doing a whole lot passing-wise, what do? 579 yards in 3 games, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks. He's also run for 112 yards and 3 touchdowns. And so that's how things look. And, of course, you know by now Mississippi State's game against Tennessee is not a night game as we hoped it would be. That'll be a 3:15 kick. So that's how things sit here on this Monday evening as we get ready to wrap up the show. Final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle without any question. If you're looking to bring a large group to town, and you certainly should, look no further than the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Just Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, and when you do, their Facebook page will come up, and you can peruse all the pictures of all the amenities available to you and your guest. In addition to that, there'll be some booking options. You can book through Airbnb, VRBO, if that's the route you want to go. But if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website. Use promo code BSR10. You get 10% off your stay. You'll be glad you did. Again, BSR, the number 10. The full-service kitchen, the wet bar, the back porch area, the fire pit area, which is great. We love it. It's starting to cool off a little bit. You're probably going to want to have a fire. They have some wood there. Wouldn't hurt you to bring some just to be on the safe side. Make sure you got some good dry wood. We built the fire and had a great time. Just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. You can do your tailgate right there. Make it nice, clean, and convenient. 6 bedrooms, 2 baths, what could be better. Well, let you know, plenty of parking there. A lot of times when you want to bring a large group together, there's never enough parking. Plenty of parking there for you and your guests. Be sure and check it out, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Okay. Finally, as I open the show with, today I'm sure was a very busy day for HR people around the country. As a lot of people got themselves in trouble on social media. The few things that I want to say about that, I'm not necessarily a friend of cancel culture. I know that sounds silly coming from me. I am a proponent of accountability, though. And sometimes we let our emotions get the better of us. And I've shared this on the show, and I've had people to reach out and say, Steve, it's always worth talking about. But the reality of it is yes, you have a First Amendment right to free speech, and the government cannot infringe upon that right. And I think, honestly, I've seen like some politicians kind of pressuring companies to make decisions, and I'm no attorney, but I kind of begin to wonder if that's not some overreach by some government officials. But at the end of the day, I think one of the things, and maybe this is the parting shot for us today, is not everybody that was raised the way you are, right? And that's one of the things that my children have learned is they've gone off to college. There are a lot of people that are raised with a different set of values. It doesn't mean that they're lesser people on either side, no matter how you look at it. And this is one of those things that I know is difficult for people to accept in the Pine Belt and certainly in the Bible Belt. But not everybody believes in God. You know what? And that's their right. I wish they did. But at the same time, too, I have to respect other people's rights to believe, worship, or not worship as they choose. It doesn't make me a better person. I don't have this moral superiority complex as some other people do. You are free to live your life as you choose as long as you're not hurting anybody else. That's how I feel. I am a live and let live person. I know what I believe, and I know why I believe it. I have researched all this. I have done my due diligence to ensure that the beliefs that I possess are not necessarily just handed down to me. I've gone out and tested those values to see, is this really what I believe, or it's just what I've always parroted because it's what I was taught? And it's an exhaustive search, but because I've done that, I feel very confident in what and who I believe in. There are other people out there that believe differently than me. And as I've shared with you, I like to have friends that maybe don't share my values just because of the fact I like to get their viewpoint. I like to find out about their worldview. I like to have that as a resource for me. I've got some great friends that if we ever talk about politics passionately, it may harm the friendship, right? It's like the old country song, there's three things we don't talk about: politics, religion, and her, right? That's kind of the standard that I have with some people, but I got some friends that really, most of my conversation with them are about political and social issues because I want to learn. I want to educate myself. I don't have to corner the market on all the right answers, and neither do you. But just because someone believes differently than you doesn't make them your enemy. And that's one of the problems with social media, with all this tribalism in the political spectrum these days, is they make everybody feel like we have to choose a team and we have to have a strong, impassioned opinion about every issue. Guys, there are a lot of things out there that you guys are very passionate about that I'm not. And it doesn't mean that I don't care. I just don't care as much as you. And there are some things that I'm very passionate about that you'd look at me and say, Steve, I just don't think that's a big problem. And you know what? That's okay. It takes all of us. But at the end of the day, the only way we're going to make it through this is love and respect for each other. Simple as that. Love and respect for each other. And there's so many people that talk about tolerance. I don't have to have this high level of tolerance in order to listen to what you believe, right? And I don't even need you to explain to me why you believe it. You are free to believe whatever you want to. When I first began to get into AA, I was basically an agnostic because I wasn't sure what I believed, and that's just me being transparent with you. And I was raised in a very religious family, very spiritual family. My great-grandfather was a minister. My grandfather was a minister. My brother married a missionary's daughter. My uncle was part of the Salvation Army. And so I began to kind of challenge some of that, is to kind of see where I stood. And so in time, I found out what I really believed. And it's very similar to what I believe many of you believe. But I don't need you to tell me anything to make me feel better about my beliefs. Like, you can't make me feel any differently about what I believe, because that is between me and my Creator. Now, I'm happy to have the dialogue with you privately. I'm not going to do it publicly, but I'm happy to have a dialogue with you. And at the end of that conversation, at least on my side, we're going to part as friends, because I'm going to treat you with dignity and respect. I'm not going to sit there and make you feel like that you're lesser than me, or have some big impassioned argument with you, really about things that neither one of us can prove. It's just what we think and believe. And I think one of the most important lessons that we can take from the last couple of weeks, and maybe the last couple of years, is when we start labeling each other, we're losing. All of us. We're losing. And the thing, I go back to Mark Twain, is like, kind of paraphrasing the quote, he who has to get personal first is the loser of the argument. When you can't debate on principle, and you have to resort to person type insults, if you have to assassinate somebody's character, right, then you've already lost. And so I think it's important for us to be open-minded in that respect, to understand that there are some things out there that maybe we need to talk about. And again, I've got a friend, I won't mention his name, but every time something comes up that kind of confuses me, and I admit that, I'm like, hey, I've read a little bit about this, I'm not sure what to believe, and I know that we don't always agree about politics, so you tell me, where am I going wrong? I want to understand. And I think if we approach all of these very complicated issues with some love and respect, that we can navigate this thing without a lot of major problems. And there are some people out there that are just too far gone, okay? And that's on both sides, right? And that's important to understand. There are some people that are not willing to have the dialogue. Their minds are already made up. You're never going to change their minds. But I think it's important for really to not draw a line between political parties or social issues, but to just draw a line between good and evil. I mean, we can agree, I think we can agree that some things should not be acceptable in our society, right? And I think that is probably the baseline for all of us. It's okay, let's agree kind of this is right and this is wrong, right? There's some other things out there that may have some gray area, and we can navigate that and probably handle it pretty well if we do it with love and respect for each other. And I love each and every one of you, even if we never meet, even if you don't love me back. I don't need you to love me back. I'd love for you to, but I don't need you to. But I love you. And I had somebody message me a while back that really kind of broke my heart. And he said, there are some times on the show you tell us you love us. And I do. And he goes, man, there's some stretches of my life, you're the only person that tells me that. And so I just kind of mentioned that because you see the memes out there all the time. There are people that that are carrying burdens that you can't possibly imagine. You just can't even imagine what some people are living with. And then if you knew, you would say, I don't even know how you get out of bed each day. So let's give each other a little bit of grace. That's to me what makes the most sense. It's like, you know what? I don't have to agree with you, but I'm certainly not going to argue with you. I'm not going to do that. And I got a friend of mine that will tell you, he is a socialist and he believes in all this other stuff. We grew up together, and our paths have changed. And he's a guy that works in academia, and I wouldn't say we had a disagreement, but he made some post on social media. I responded to it, and I said, hey, here's my thoughts. And he goes, hey, man, I appreciate your thoughts, and, we can agree to just not agree. And I said, hey, that's perfectly fine. I don't pick my friends based on their political leanings. I just don't. There's just too many. There's other things that are so important. We lost a classmate over the weekend, and I I didn't know this, but she had a heart condition, and I believe she's 4 weeks older than me. I think that's right, 3 to 4 weeks older than me. Rode the school bus with me in middle school, and she died over the weekend, unexpectedly, in her sleep. And if you're going to go, that's probably the best way to go. And we're all going to go at some point. But again, it's made more of my classmates kind of reach out and say, "Hey, have you heard?" I didn't hear at the time what the cause was. I just heard she died in her sleep, and so when you begin to think about that aspect of life and consider your own mortality, I don't want to die with any beef with anybody. I don't. And listen, guys, I'm going to be honest and transparent with you. Man, there are some people that absolutely don't like me, really for no fault of my own. And there's some other people that like me because I actually have done something to them. Very few of those people. And there's some people I've tried to make amends to for 30 years that don't want anything to do with me. And you know what? That's their right. I can't force them to be my friend, especially when I've wronged them. And there are other people out there, and as I've shared with you guys before, like if we've got a personal problem, you feel free to call me. And if you don't have my number, then you don't know me well enough to have a personal problem with me. You don't like what I do business-wise, that's your business. There's a lot of people to do, and I'm not going to focus on the negativity. And so I share that with you. It is so easy to get caught up in all the things that don't matter. And it's like people lash out at you, people whisper behind your back. People kind of have these muttered conversations kind of in your presence but outside of your earshot. And you kind of wonder if they're talking about you. More times than not, they're not. But if they are, who cares? Who cares? You can't let that kind of stuff bother you. I'm a human being too. I don't want people talking poorly of me. But that's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's just kind of part of the human condition. And so I share that with you, all of you, out of love. And, we got to move forward. We just simply have to move forward. And my hope is that the vitriol and the rhetoric will kind of ratchet down now. Because if not, we're all going to be right back having this conversation again. But I can't make the whole world's problems mine, but I can make things better in my community. And I can tell you over the course, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. When all this stuff happened, it really messed with my head. It really did. And for a couple days there, I was a little scared, to be honest with you. I was like, oh my gosh, if it could happen to any of us, especially somebody that has been as outspoken and made as many enemies as I have. Obviously not near to that level, but my point being is that after a couple of days of kind of contemplating and kind of, taking it all in, I began to kind of think to myself, I think one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to be a lot kinder to people. It's so crazy. You get back what you put. Like this lady held the door open for me today at Fast Break, and I was so happy. I do that for people all the time, but not everybody does it for me. And when somebody does it, used to, I would just say, "Oh, thanks." I say, "Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate you. Have a good day." And I think to myself, that stuff is free, right? It doesn't cost me anything to be overly kind to somebody, but it could change the direction of their day. And I'm a firm believer in you reap what you sow. And you put good things out to the universe, I believe you get them back. I believe that 100%. And I think if you walk around all bitter and resentful and looking for fights, you'll find them. I do. As a man seeks, so shall he find. I don't know who wrote that originally, but there's some truth in that. If we seek good things in life, we tend to find them. And if we get all this all woe is me type mentality and nobody's ever going to love me and I'm never going to have anything, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I believe that you can manifest things, but you also have to work for things. God will do for you what you can't do for yourself, but not one thing more. And maybe that's a good way for us to finish up the show. If you hadn't done so, go to dutynoblebook.com and you can get all my sports titles, signed copies of the sports titles, and the book When the Bottom Falls. If you like hearing about my life, you may enjoy reading about it too. And come join us at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville, 662-268-7601. You need to come float. You owe it to yourself. I was going to try to float today. I'm going to float tomorrow. I need to float. I'm a little bit stressed, but I'm also kind of tired of lugging a camera around for 3 days. I had the last 4. If you've got a person who's got chronic pain or anxiety or you just need a break or need to relax a little bit, we may be able to help you. We've helped many others. True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. And always come join us over at genespage.com. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.